around and just sort of urging him, don't worry about perfection, because Paul Simon has this saying, the ear goes to the irritant, when he's trying to mix something, and like if there's the slightest flaw, and Wynton's going, let the flaws go. This is where you are in your life. This is kind of what this record is about. So there's that. But then it's also the footage from going way back when he was 15 with Art Garfunkel and going through that. And what struck me was this went as deep as any film I've seen into their relationship and how it ended. And it was, there's still some snark and bitterness a little bit. Art Garfunkel, took the chance that, I'm going to be a movie star and, a singing star. And Paul Simon's like, nah, no, you're not. And they just went separate ways. There's a line there where he goes, it's so weird to spend 5 years with someone trying to get famous. You're famous for 5 more years. And at some point, you reach a point where you never want to see that person again. He goes, it's hard to come to grips with. So they did reconcile a couple of times, but so that was really enlightening to me. And it just more about the making of records and how the genius Roy Halley was. So if you like him and you've seen as much as I do, and you've seen other docs, this is sort of like the comprehensive one.
That's great.
It's like the Tom Petty one that Peter Bogdanovich directed, which is 4 hours. But it's just, it's comprehensive, and it's like really, really thrilling. I like it as much as I like the Beatles' Let It Be with Peter Jackson and the Petty docs. So they're all up there.
Wow, that's high praise to say the least. And I know we're fans, and maybe in different ways, of Dolly Parton, and she just announced that she'll be coming out with a docuseries later this year. So obviously we can't comment on the quality of it or anything, but she's going to do a new album. She did the rock album with a bunch of rock acts last year, and it was pretty well received. But this is be returning to her roots. It's called Dolly Parton and Family, Smoky Mountain DNA. And, she does quality projects. Sounds like 4 parts. It's going to get in fairly deep and focus on her family and such. And she's an interesting person and impactful, that's for sure.
Oh, I can't. I mean, I think what I know about her is probably just barely skims the surface, and I've watched some documentaries, but they're, this sounds like it's going to go real deep, and she will no doubt be behind it and influencing it, and, maybe bringing it to places that others haven't brought it. I'm really fascinated by her. She was, even before she became who she is, was such a, proponent of women. And, it's like, well, when she split with Porter Wagner, that was a big deal, but she's like, I want to be my own person. And so I'm fascinated by her. And I think it's going to be probably like this Paul Simon one. It's going to teach me things I didn't know and just sort of deepen her legend.
We always get things we don't know and want to know from Tim Finn. It's Danny and Tim's Music Scene. It's part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions. We have more with the important ladies in the music business and their impact and how they were treated through the years. And got some passings that bring up musical and other memories as well. And a list to cuss and discuss, as I said in the intro. All that coming up next on Danny and Tim's Music Scene, part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here at the 23rd Street Brewery with Matt Llewellyn. And Matt, you've got a great menu. You fine-tuned it a little bit. Great beers. There's always something to be had to put a smile on your face at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Oh, you bet. And Brian Haney would always say, come have the Haney turkey stack. Bill Self would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. I would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. It's great. Great mac and cheese, buffalo mac and cheese. And we've got a ton of other menu items that you're sure to love. We've got a great brewer who's brewing great beer. And if you like craft beer, our guy's the way to go. And we're making great drinks, too. There's a great new distillery in the state of Kansas called Llewellyn Distillery. My brother's doing that. He makes some great whiskey and vodka and rum, and we're doing all kinds of great drinks with those beverages.
Always fun to be had at the 23rd Street Brewery, 23rd and Castle. Come on by anytime and have a good time. Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Whittle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one, mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
We can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business on Kansas City's #1 rated podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome back, and our female rock music or music in general theme, a little mini theme here, continues. There's a couple of new books and a documentary as well about women in music, and one of those is the daughter of Mama Cass, Owen Elliott Kugel, her name is, has written a book called My Mama Cass, and she thinks it's one of the things she says is that, you know, there was a story that was often told that she was sort of half concussed by getting hit in the head with something, and her vocal range changed a bit, and that's how she got in the Mamas and the Papas. And the true story was that John Phillips didn't want her in the Mamas and the Papas, and not because of her vocal range, but because she was fat, basically. And this woman who was not overweight talks about the fact that she thinks it's an important time that, you know, a trailblazer in a far different way was somebody who was a woman of size, as she puts it, who became a tremendously impactful singer and was so respected by other people, passed way too soon, but it'd be interesting look and she's basing this mostly on speaking with other people because her mother, she was very small when her mother passed away. And that sounds like a very, very interesting book to me.
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, there was a piece in the New York Times that ran, I'm looking at it here, just a couple weeks ago, May 9th. And it's the Critic's Notebook. It's called, the title of the essay was Cass Elliott's Death Spawned a Horrible Myth. She Deserves Better, which was how she died.
Right.
And, you know, she choked on a ham sandwich. Of course, she was eating because she's fat, you know.
Right.
Which was never true. As it turns out, she was tormented by all the body shaming. And so she was having emotional issues and also taking pharmaceuticals to help lose weight. So, I mean, even sang a song, you know, no one's getting fat except Mama Cass.
Right.
Mamas and Papas. So, I mean, it was just such, you know, she was the jolly one, but she wasn't, you know. So, I mean, just this essay was really enlightening. Yeah, she had an amazing voice. They were such a unique ensemble. There was a lot going on in that band, we know now with John Phillips, and, you know, just a lot of stuff. But their music, we had a greatest hits that we wore out. So, yeah, she was an amazing singer and did some things solo that were really good. But yeah, I just hope that we can fix her legend and stop telling that stupid lie about how she died.
Yes, that would go a long way. That's for sure. Anita Pallenberg was famous for being famous. She was a model, and she dated both Brian Jones and Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, had an affair with Mick Jagger as well. And she had always vowed she would not write an autobiography, and she died. And then when they were going through her the things she left behind, she had actually written a book or a manuscript called Black Magic, and a filmmaker has taken it now and made a new documentary, Catching Fire, the story of Anita Pallenberg. By the way, there's an audio book, and it's voiced by Scarlett Johansson. and Kate Moss is in this documentary. She's a keynote piece of it, but just another woman of her time who probably was not treated in ways she were or respected for what she was, and which was an intelligent woman who happened to be beautiful.
Yeah, speaking of, sordid stories from back then, there's a lot of those that,
right,
I mean, are, borderline criminal, some behavior back then with women and girls. But yeah, that was there have been memoirs from back then about groupies, and but you're right, she was a little different.
Right.
So probably has some elements to her story that are, beyond the norm, I guess. I'd probably be pretty interested to listen to it or watch whatever's coming out.
In the same vein, Susie Ronson, who was married to Mick Ronson from the Spiders from Mars, obviously, has written a new memoir. So if you're into that era as well, it's called Me and Mr. Jones, My Life with David Bowie and the Spiders from Mars. And it's talked about as a very candid memoir. I don't know exactly what that means. This is part of an overall article in The Guardian, which I recommend often for people who like music. It talked about women in music, and so that is out as well. So that would be interesting. I don't, David Bowie, as famous as he was, is still, I think he did a great job of remaining a fairly mysterious figure.
Yeah, he's sustained his mystique for sure. But being married to Iman for as long as he was, and having that sort of helps. There was this, element of privacy that he was respected, and he reached a point where I think he wanted to be private and a little more, about as normal as he could be. And, he's one, like Prince. I thought you had to. He chose his spots when he wanted to step out, which is why seeing him live on his last tour here was just so amazing and spellbinding, because it was being in his presence and watching him. It sustained the myth, but it also broke the myth, because there he is, flesh and blood, and he was having fun and goofing around. So. Yeah, I admire him as much as anybody in music.
Definitely a major figure, and somebody who was not a mysterious figure in any way, because he was all out there. It was Bill Walton, who just passed away a couple of days ago from cancer. He had a long bout with cancer. He had kept that relatively private. He obviously had other physical problems through the years. I would see him at the Final Four every year, and he actually had to sit in this special chair. It was a chair that was created so he basically could sort of stand. It was a very tall chair, and somebody had to carry it around. But my favorite basketball player when I was a kid was Ernie DiGregorio, the guard for Providence College, and they made the Final Four. And Providence played UCLA at their peak earlier that season, and played them a better game than most teams usually did. And then they played in the Final Four, and the winner of the Memphis-Providence game was going to play UCLA in the title game, and Providence was blowing Memphis off the floor until Marvin Barnes, their ultra-talented but crazy big man, got hurt, and Memphis ended up winning the game. And then Walton went on to have one of the most historic finals in college basketball history, making 21 of 22 shots from the field, or 22 of 23, had 44 points. I think there were a couple free throws in there. Anyway, whenever I interviewed him, one of the first times I interviewed him, I said to him, Ernie and Marvin were, they played you pretty well early in the year, and then they were killing Memphis, and, in the final, there's no way you were getting 44 off of Marvin, okay, Bill? And I said, and Providence, they had a chance to beat you. And his standard line was always, I will agree with the former, I disagree vehemently with the latter, that they would actually lose. So we always shared that laugh every time we saw each other. And that type of thing is just the way most people who interacted, I know he was one of your favorites, with him, came away with the feeling that he, even if it was just once or twice or 5 or 6 times like I met him, that he actually knew who you were and cared about you. And the musical tie is that obviously he's a noted Deadhead and went to literally hundreds, maybe thousands of shows of the Dead. Just a really cool figure who spanned all kinds of different areas of life.
Well, also, he was probably the first, as I remember. I remember watching him in college. He was one of my favorite. My two favorite players at first were